Our first director of worship ministry was Kathy Post. Katie Griffin, many of us know her as Katie Post, followed, and God has most recently called Jane Nelson to join our Living Waters family and leading us in worship ministry. So for each of you, think back to the days leading up to your individual call to lead worship at Living Waters. How did that call come about for each of you, and describe Living Waters' first impression when you accepted the call?
Living Waters was just such a beautiful birth that I was able to be privileged to be a part of. It was almost like watching a baby being born. It was just an opportunity for me to do something that I'd done all my life, and yet something different ways of doing it that I had done all my life. So from the ground floor, it was a really fun place to look at and to be able to watch and behold how God worked.
And it wasn't until I was back in Peoria and looking for a place to call home while I was looking for worship direction opportunities for employment that Living Waters embraced me. And you guys know that. It's just, you made me feel like I was family. And some had known me because I grew up with them, whether it be family or people like family, but others didn't really know me hardly at all. And they made me feel like I was instantly a part. So, when I think of Living Waters, I think of family. I think of family that's not blood related, and obviously family that is blood related, but just instant love without having to prove a thing. Just embracing the moment I got there until I left. And even now, I feel loved. So I'm grateful.
So my kind of first experience was actually with a phone call with Pastor Mark. I remember hearing a lot about the family-like community that Katie was just talking about among Living Waters members, and also about Living Waters' heart for the surrounding area. And honestly, from the very first phone call, I would say I felt drawn to Living Waters. Everything from the conversations that I had, beginning with Kurt, who picked me up from the airport, and then just the hospitality and love I was shown from everyone, especially you guys, Stephen and Jessica. It was just so easy to see that everything Pastor Mark had said about Living Waters was true, and that the love of God was really in working through this church.
In those early days of Living Waters, when it was, a brand new baby church, what did worship look like in those early days?
God was so good to us. He just kept providing. But it was pretty, it was pretty rough in little ways. I mean, we did really great things. The first thing I remember is walking into the sanctuary and realizing that there were already pews and there were hymnals in the pews. Bethany had left those hymnals for us, so I thought, oh goodness, we have hymnals. So we had hymnals to sing out of, but honestly, we would sing out of those, and then a donor gave a keyboard to the congregation, so we had that because the organ was not always very dependable that they had left there. And then we did music with YouTube. I know that seems like 100 years ago, but that was 10 years ago. We didn't know what else to do, and I didn't have a band. And we started with 65 wonderful, faithful people, but we just hadn't had time to put things together. So we would sing with YouTube for our contemporary songs, and then we would sing. I would play the keyboard for hymns until Pastor came. And then when Mark came in September, we were able to start pulling a band together.
And can you each reflect on just what leading worship and the worship ministry has meant for you, maybe on a more personal level?
So it's just always a blessing to know that I wasn't in it alone, that there were people to share the load, and there were people that wanted to do this. And I knew full well that they were volunteers. This was my job, but it was their opportunity to volunteer. And so I've always been grateful. And as I continue to watch what happens, I'm continually grateful for the gifts that God has provided for us there.
It was like the most beautiful gift God could have given me was being a director of worship at Living Waters in every respect. People that I served with, they were those that I called closest to me aside from my blood family. And so I just feel so honored, echoing what my mom said, like everybody was full on serving in every capacity they could and were gifted to. And some capacities that weren't necessarily their calling, but hey, it's a needed hand. I'm going to put, as I think Pastor Mark would say, shoulder to the plow, like all hands on deck. And I felt continual support. I felt continual love. I felt encouragement to try new things. I felt good, also word when something needed to be changed. And so I just feel so humbled that for the few years I was at Living Waters in this capacity, that God gave me that, and that you guys walked with me and I got to walk with you, because it really has been a family in all kinds of respects.
Well, leading worship in general is so fulfilling to me. And one thing I really love about Living Waters is that you guys love to sing. And I am so ministered to when I get to stand up there and hear my brothers and sisters in Christ singing that truth back to me. That is just one of the things I love about Living Waters.
Is I've watched those people spiritually grow. I've watched the ways that Living Waters, because of its culture, has allowed them to grow closer to Christ with their gifts. Again, I think that the big emphasis in our church from beginning till now has always been, this is not a performance. This is not, this just is not a stage event. We are privileged to bring people into the presence of God.
I think it's been a beautiful thing to see people, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, even share their time because it's needed, even if it's not a primary gift. Like being able to see the community support each other in ways that are just all hands on deck. But additionally, to see the gifts of those that already have the gifts being expanded upon and expound on, like seeing people become songwriters and write music for the church, and not just for Living Waters as the church, like the capital T, capital C church. Seeing young people become young leaders, seeing even our youth group go from younger people who were asking really beautiful, profound questions about God in the beginning of their stage of their relationship with Him, to singing and playing and being a part of really substantial ways of transforming the church, teaching us adults a whole lot. And that's probably the biggest thing I can think of.
One thing I've noticed is I think music, and especially singing, is it's such a powerful form of worship. And it's one that Living Waters, I can tell, really loves to do. It's a church that loves to sing. And my hope going forward is that we would continue to be a church that sings together and experiences God together through worship.